All right, we've got South Carolina coming up this weekend, and Jimmy Stein's going to tell you who might have to be the hero for Alabama to get back on the winning track.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the HSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel. Also got a very special live show we're going to do Friday at Academy Sports. Can't wait to tell you about that. Please come out and see us. And I'm going to tell you about some opportunities you don't want to miss when you go out to Academy Sports there on 280 in Birmingham. It's brand new. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to thank our everydayers for joining us every day. And Jimmy, let's get started. You came up with something about who needs to be a hero for this South Carolina game coming up. Now, let's also call a spade a spade. We shouldn't have to need a hero.
Right.
This South Carolina team, while good, and I'm not frightened, but I'm a little more leery of anybody at this moment just because I'm shell-shocked from last weekend. But Alabama should be able to handle this South Carolina team. I think we will. But who needs to step up? And I'm going to tell you, it could be some of these tight ends.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of like when stepping up as a hero, when, like in a pitching rotation in Major League Baseball, you got 5 starters, right? And then you lose a tough game. And you're like, we need to win tomorrow. A good question is, you pitch in a turn, but who do you want to be the slump stopper? We need Chris Sale or Max Fried. Hopefully, he can go today because we need to stop this and get a win. So I hope our best pitcher's out there. That's sort of what I'm talking about here. I mean, every game has an MVP on offense and defense. It's easy, it's fun to pick out, okay, at the end of every game. I mean, who is today's MVP? I think the MVP Saturday is a little bit more heroic because you got to stop the bleeding. It's a little more important. And this game reminds me, of Ole Miss. We'll talk about it later. In terms of it's important that Alabama win on Saturday. It's very important. Obviously, they're a 23-point favorite and should win, but someone's got to step up. Someone's got to step up and say, hey, we're going to be the same old Alabama everybody's used to seeing. And who's going to do that? And obviously, the character on offense do. It's Jalen Milroe. And I do think that Milroe is going to have a really nice day Saturday against South Carolina. I think I can sort of feel that or see that coming.
I'm going to tell you something. It's interesting you say this. I really wanted to talk about the comparisons because you brought it up to me. I want to give you full credit about Ole Miss last year and South Carolina this year. And I feel like, boy, there's even more potential similarities in the sense that, I think Milroe caught a little heat after the Vanderbilt game, not necessarily for his performance, but body language on the sideline. I've seen more than one person point out, hey, why wouldn't he in people's faces or trying to lift people up? Because every time the cameras cut to him on the sidelines, it felt like he was on the bench with his head leaned back. Now, again, I'm not trying to read too much into all this body language, but it is what it is. And I think that some people notice that, and it's especially exacerbated when you lose to Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. So I think this is another opportunity for Jalen Milroe to revitalize himself and reestablish himself as the leader. He was the starting quarterback. Then, of course, he has to sit out or doesn't have to sit out. He's forced to sit out the South Florida game. And then he comes back against Ole Miss. And we've talked about it on this podcast a gazillion times about the touchdown pass to Jalen Hill where he takes a low blow from Centarian Perkins. And everybody was worried he was hurt. And then he gets up and he pumps his fist. And it seemed like it just energized the whole stadium. I was there. It was unbelievable. So I'm wondering if this particular game is another opportunity for him to revitalize and reestablish himself.
Oh, I think it really is. And I agree. I'm not criticizing, just like you, I'm not criticizing Jalen Milroe's sideline demeanor, not critical of it. I was just a little surprised when the defense needed to stop that maybe he wasn't standing on the sidelines kind of cheering on or encouraging the guys. It was more NFL-like when, hey, when the defense is out there, defense doing their job, and and our job is to rest. that's how the NFL does it. So I'm not complaining at all. I was just a little surprised by it. But I think it's set up Saturday really nicely for Milroe. This is a defense he can take advantage of if Alabama handles the pass rush. Again, I want to reiterate how good South Carolina's pass rush is. For those of you not familiar with Carolina and their personnel, Dylan Stewart he is the freshman pass rushing equivalent of Ryan Williams as a wide receiver. Dylan Stewart's one of the nation's best pass rushers, even though he's a true freshman. He has a world of ability, and he's going to be a force in this league for the next 3 seasons. He's not the only good pass rusher South Carolina has. In fact, they're surprisingly really good up front defensively. This is a good defensive line, and by good, I mean as good as elite SEC teams are. Now, other spots, they're not quite as good. Their offensive line isn't quite as good. For instance, they have a true freshman left tackle. The quarterbacks are good runners, but are limited in their ability to complete balls. Usually, Sellers and Ashford aren't the type that are going to put up big passing numbers usually, but they're very athletic with their feet, and that's caused Alabama a lot of trouble in 2024. Quarterbacks who can run. So I do anticipate South Carolina having some wins on Saturday, if you know what I mean. There'll be plays where they're just good, and so they'll get a few wins. Hopefully, Alabama will have many, many more wins on a per-snap basis, and I think Milroe's a big part of it defensively. My choice or my hope for game MVP is Jahad Campbell. I thought he did not play well at all last Saturday against Vanderbilt, but he's a really good player. I think his bounce back could be a single-handed destruction of South Carolina. That's how good Jahad is. I think he can take over a game. Hadn't really happened yet, but he's been borderline to do it, and I think he will do it on Saturday. I'll look for Jahad to have a major bounce-back performance, and at the end of the game, we'll be going, oof, Jahad was good today.
Yeah, in fact, there's a highlight out there, one of Vandy's rushing touchdowns. The running back just goes right into Jahad's midsection. Yeah. I'm talking about just lowers the boom on him. And it's one of those where I think Reuben Foster would have met the running back in the hole and, created the action. And Jahad sort of stood there and the guy just came right to him. And it was a tone setter. It really was. And so, yeah, I think he's another guy that could have a good bounce back game. And look, we're not here to tell you to minimize the Vanderbilt defeat. I'm on record. It's the worst loss in Bama history. I really believe that. But it's also mitigated by the fact that we have a 12-team playoff now. So it's not the end of the world. I heard Chris Doering yesterday. He was talking about how, or maybe it was Brian Hartsock, one of those wide receivers that played in the NFL for a while. And he was playing for the Colts. It was a Hartsock, and he was playing for the Colts in his rookie year. And he said they were undefeated until week 12 or whatever, and they lose a really close game. And he comes in the locker room and he's all heartbroken and just despondent. And the veterans tell him, dude, we're in the playoffs. Quit worrying about it. And, he was like, he said, that's the difference between college and pro. And he said, college is shifting that way. And that in a way it's great because one loss doesn't kill you. In another way, it hurts. It hurts because the live and die by every Saturday thing is what made college football great. And I have no problem saying this. While obviously I was upset Saturday after the Vanderbilt loss, at the same time, I've gotten over it much more quickly, knowing that, hey, we're still right in the thick of this thing. And if it were a 14 playoff, I would not feel comfortable at all under any circumstance. So there's part of me that's happy and part of me that's sad. But going back to the Ole Miss thing, I think this is this is a reset button opportunity for Alabama. And again, I talked about it yesterday on the podcast. I went and checked out some South Carolina message board stuff. They are not optimistic. Now, they shouldn't be coming into Tuscaloosa. They shouldn't be, right? But they aren't optimistic even by like crazy, I'm always optimistic fan standards. I think they are a little bit upset about the direction of the program overall, even though, frankly, I mean, I look at their pass rush and I go, I kind of wish we had that.
They do have a very good pass rush, and Alabama's is, I think, okay. It's a work in progress. It's not as good as we would like it to be, but I think pieces are in place for Alabama to improve as the season goes on. For instance, Alabama's 2 best pass rushers so far, in my opinion, have been Q Robinson and LT Overton. Both are new to their positions. Both are new to being starting type players that are depended upon on a snap-to-snap basis, and they'll improve as the season goes along because it's not like they've been starting for 3 years and they are what they are. These kids are still developing because they're just now getting to play and be first-team guys all the time. And again, new positions, especially for LT, a big transition. For Q, played a real similar position a year ago, but it is different for him as well. So and that's Alabama's two best. You still have good blitzers in Lawson and Campbell. Keanu Coots a good pass rusher. Quay Rousseau is a good pass rusher. Alabama needs a better interior push. I'll tell you one guy we haven't seen rush the passer a lot that I think down the stretch is going to be a good player that consistently applies some pressure is James Smith. I think he's really making some strides and is getting there. He's going to be an interior pass rush presence. So I think it's something that's going to improve as Alabama goes along. But this is a strength for South Carolina. And I would tell Proctor and Pritchett, Alabama's tackles, hey, look, you're not playing Georgia this week. You're not playing Tennessee this week. You're not playing Texas this week. These guys are just as good as who they got. I mean, they're as good as their guys in terms of getting to the quarterback. So this is an elite test for Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett and good practice for what they're going to see down the stretch. Because clearly Alabama's, I wouldn't say they have to win out to make the playoff. That's not true. But I wouldn't cough up more than one more. And this one would be really bad because it would force you to win all those road games. And boy, you could really make it harder on yourself. But I do think, like Lucas said, it reminds me of Ole Miss last year that Alabama used to recreate and reset the rest of the season. The good that happened in 2023 started with Ole Miss. And I think the good in 2024 can start this weekend with South Carolina. And some people say, well, it already started with Georgia. Well, that's true as a resume maker, but I think Vanderbilt sort of knocked all the blocks off. You're starting over to an extent in terms of building momentum, and it starts this weekend.
Let me tell everybody about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you can check out the latest stats and all that right on FanDuel, you can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's at FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com, which, of course, as we know, is America's #1 sportsbook. Jimmy, really quickly, I want to remind everybody about this grand opening of Academy Sports on Highway 280.
I am excited.
And it's going to be, it's going to be where Best Buy used to be in the Target Shopping Center, right near Chick-fil-A on 280. Everybody knows where that is if you know anything about 280. Jimmy and I are going to be there. We're going to be there starting at 9 o'clock. Come by and see us. We're going to be doing a show, and we're going to be talking to you. And they're going to be giving away. There's gift cards giveaways. I need to tell you about this. They're not even
crazy. It's crazy. They're just giving away stuff, and we'll be there to watch them give it away, and you'll be there to accept the giveaway because this is literally a giveaway.
Look, free mystery gift cards for the first 150 customers in line at opening, 18 years older, obviously. Over $15,000 in total weekend prizes, and the gift cards range from $20 to $500. All you got to do is show up. They give you a gift card.
You show up and they're handing out money that you have to spend in the store, but that's literally what they're doing. They're handing you money.
Jimmy and I'll be there. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to tell you what kind of shirts to buy or whatever.
Luke is full of fashion advice, and is quite famous. I would say he's the most famous member of the fashion police now since Joan Rivers passed away.
Oh, I wish I hadn't even brought it up. So, Jimmy, I want to talk a little bit about you're talking about heroes, and I don't see why we can't get the tight ends a little more involved here. I'm ready for some of these tight ends. Look,
the Sharks. They call themselves the Sharks.
So talk about the Sharks thing. What is that?
Yeah, Charlie Potter brought us that story on BOL that the tight ends are referred to as Sharks. I think it's really cool.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
Why?
They're into playing poker. That's kind of where it started. They're poker players. They like to play poker with each other, the tight end room, all of them, and they think they're good. So that's sort of where it came from, but also because they're apparently the most tight-knit group on the entire team. They do everything together. You don't see one without the other. So they're also like, hey, we're sharks because we play poker, but sharks swim together. That's their thing. Sharks swim together. Even Tyler Booker said in an interview yesterday that he's jealous of the tight end room because they're the closest knit group on the whole team, and they do everything together. And Tyler wishes every group on the team was as close as the tight ends were. And what's interesting to me about Luke is, in the past game, we haven't used him a ton, but they have been effective. Cuevas has made big plays. Dupree made a 40-something yard play against Vandy this weekend. Robbie Oost has caught some balls and is probably pound for pound the best blocker of that group. Danny Lewis plays snaps with the ones too.
He has no catches, though. Is that surprising to you?
Danny? Probably not based on the number of snaps he's played. He's definitely a distant fourth in terms of number of snaps played. But those things are coming. And by the way, and since Dupree is cycling out and Oost is cycling out, Danny Lewis will be a huge part of things next fall. I hope he's patient and realizes, hey, next fall, buddy, it's Danny Lewis and Josh Cuevas that's going to be out there on all these snaps instead of Dupree and Cuevas or Oost and Cuevas. So, I think that we're underestimating how good these guys are. And my buddy Bone, he's been saying this since the summer, that Dupree is going to be a better NFL prospect than most people believe. He's selling me on that all the time. And I don't think we appreciate that tight end group enough. Everybody wants Brock Bowers. That would be nice. That would be ideal. But when you don't have a freak, the best thing to do is take 3 or 4 guys that are all really good at something, and then you mix and match situationally. Alabama's got that. I think Alabama's got one of the better tight end situations in the whole country because Dupree and Oost are very good blockers. Cuevas is a very good receiver, but they're also not terrible at the other aspect of the job. And then you have tremendous depth with the 4th guy who's actually good enough to get first team reps.
And along those lines, more tight end help could be on the way, as it looks like Alabama will be flipping a North Carolina commitment. Now, he's not the highest rated kid in America, but he's a nice 3-star, solid player. North Carolina obviously loves him, and this staff loves him.
Bone came up with a good, my comp when I first was reading and then I watched some Marshall Pritchett tape. My first comp was Brad Smelly. I didn't love it, but it was just what I came up with. Bone came up with a much better one. He is so right. This kid is, for those who remember him, this kid's Miller Forrestall. That's a much better comp. That's exactly what he is. And if you all remember, Miller Forrestall was a big part of a lot of Alabama success and had, quote, has an NFL career that was beyond Alabama. And he was a 3-star type that didn't make a lot of headlines when he committed. Josh Cuevas walked on at an FCS school out of high school. That's way less than a 3-star. If you're a walk-on at an FCS school, and look where Cuevas is today. It's an interesting position to evaluate. There are so many stories of 3-star tight ends and less who went on to great things. It's a real developmental position, and this kid's got a lot of upside. Obviously, he's a pass catcher. Alabama's going to have to develop him in terms of physical ability as a blocker.
But it looks like he is going to flip. I mean, that's been projected everywhere. And so that'll be another addition to Alabama's class. It feels like there hadn't been a ton of recruiting. I mean, there's been some news in the sense that we had a bunch of, obviously, the visitor list at Georgia was ridiculous. I don't really know what the list is like this weekend. I don't think it's huge.
It's not huge, and it shouldn't be huge. It's 11 a.m. kick, and it's kind of harder to get kids to campus for 11 a.m. kicks because they all play football on Friday night. So it's kind of difficult for one thing. But secondly, here's another one, and this courtesy of Andrew Bone, too, who's always on top of everything recruiting-wise. Don't rule out Alabama getting a lot of interest and maybe an official visit from Harry Dalton, a running back he's 3 stars, not ranked very high, but then you look at his offer list, and you're like, 3 stars don't have this offer list. I mean, a lot of big programs like Harry Dalton. In fact, he's sort of been projected the whole time, even though he's from Virginia, to sign with Southern Cal.
Well, he's committed to him, isn't he?
He's either committed or that's where he's expected to go. I mean, he's always been tied to Southern Cal. So usually Southern Cal doesn't go to Virginia to get backs unless they're pretty special. So don't read too much into the 3-star thing. But Harry Dalton, don't rule him out with Alabama at all. Alabama wants 2 backs in this class. They do want 2. It would be nice maybe if the second one was Turbo Rogers. But the fact of the matter is 2 things. Turbo committed to the last staff, not this staff. And Turbo, even though he's committed, continues to take visits to other schools. So one thing about Turbo is as long as he's insistent on taking these other visits, and Alabama wants 2 backs, you go ahead and get that second one that you know you're going to get. You can't just wait on Turbo and then on signing day go somewhere else. So things with Turbo just aren't locked in like Alabama would like. And Dalton is not just he's no consolation prize. There would be many programs in the country that would rank Dalton ahead of Turbo. Frankly, some would. This is not going to be a universal ranking type thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that second running back spot. Just want to mention that because Bone has been on top of that at BOL.
All right, let's talk a little game time. Y'all know I love game time. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the game time. And it's just awesome. Look,
good one.
I've used it for everything, and I had a great experience when I used it recently for the Alabama-Wisconsin game. It was just so easy, and I got to see where I was going to sit before and got a great view of it. I loved it. It was awesome, and I've used it. I sent my son to the World Series with it when Arizona was playing in it, and I've done NFL games. I've done other Major League Baseball, college baseball, concerts, college basketball, all that stuff. It is absolutely awesome. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Look, it's the lowest price guarantee, by the way, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's amazing. You can't beat that deal anywhere. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time because you know you're going to get the best and you know what you're going to get, and you know you're going to have great customer service because I've used them, and they really do have great customer service. Look, Game Time is always the right time. It's fantastic. What time is it? Game time.
Game time.
It's always so awkward when I can't get that little screen thing to come back in time, and you and I are just staring at each other, and I'm trying to fumble through this.
Talk about really Academy again, because you know what I might get out at Academy, and since they have such great deals, and they have a whole list of things that we've already seen that are on sale. That's like, I need. This sounds terrible, but I need one of those Yetis that has the wheels.
Yeah.
You know, Yeti with wheels, because we go to the beach. Go to the beach all the time, and hey, I love Yeti products. I'm a big fan. I've got a Yeti, but man, those things are super heavy. They're heavy, and when we walk to the beach, carrying a Yeti full of beer on the beach through the sand,
it's tough.
Oh man, whew.
It's tough. But come sit, and Jimmy and I will be there. Highway 280, right where Best Buy used to be, in the Target shopping center, near that Chick-fil-A, near that car wash everybody goes to, all that stuff. Highway 280.
Alabama related, pretty funny. This is years ago. This isn't recent. Years ago, I went to the beach with an Alabama coach. I went to the beach, and so the Yeti was in the back of my SUV. It was full of beer and ice, and he, like, how are we going to carry all this? And I said, well, you get one side of the Yeti, I'll get the other. It's heavy. And he just picked it up and put it on his shoulder and walked a quarter mile. And I'm like, I'm just not built like these football guys. And I thought we were going to struggle for 20 minutes, the two of us carrying it on one side, and he's like, just puts it on his shoulder, and we walked a quarter mile to our beach spot. And I'm like, these football guys, wow.
And I want to get to your stock up here in a second, but you mentioned the tight end room as the Sharks. And let me tell you, for those who don't know, I went to Indian Springs High School, and we don't have a mascot. We never have. And so when I was playing basketball, we were actually pretty good at one time. We actually got to be ranked second in the state. We weren't second in the state best, but we got ranked that high. And I was playing, and so we didn't have a mascot, and the students in the stands just at one point started calling us the Sharks. They were like, what's the most anti-Birmingham animal we can think of? So they came up with the Sharks. So for about 3.5 games, we were the Sharks. Everybody'd be going, go Sharks. And I'd be like, what the heck is happening? I mean, I was on the court like, what are y'all talking about? I didn't nobody had a meeting with me that they named us the Sharks. But anyway.
I got a worse one than that. So I went to a Catholic school growing up, a grade school. It was called Christ the King is the name of our Catholic grade school. And we'd never had sports teams until I was in the 8th grade. And they finally, for the first time, we had a sports team. And for some reason, it was basketball. So we had a basketball. Of course I'm going to play, because the school's never had an athletic team. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to refresh myself on what the rules are, but yeah, I'll play basketball. And so they let us. And since we'd never had a team before, Luke, they said, all right, well, y'all can come up with the team name, because we've never had a team here. So we've never had a mascot. So y'all can invent it. So we got together and we voted on, because we're 8th grade idiot boys, we voted on the Christ the King Kongs.
Oh, nice.
Everyone liked this except the nuns and the priests at the school. They did not care. They did not care for our choice. So we did not, in fact, get to name the team. They're like, how about the Celtics? And I'm like,
not much better.
We like the Kongs because it's going to be such a cool, mascot. And they're like, not Christ the King Kongs. So we were the Christ the King Celtics. And trust me, we played nothing like the Celtics.
More like the Kongs. All right. So, Jimmy, you had a stock up, stock down again. Yep. We don't even talk about the stock downs anymore because we are all positive here on Locked On Bama.
There were a few stock downs.
Tell me about what you said.
Normally, I do 4 stock ups and 2 stock downs, but this week I did 2 stocks up and 4 stock downs.
Well, you just give me the 2 stock ups.
The stock ups this week were, and pretty interesting, Jeremy Bernard. And I went with him because it wasn't so much as 3 catches for 70 yards. That was a part of it. But the snap counts, Ryan and Jeremy, even though you substitute at wide receiver a lot, Ryan and Jeremy played basically every snap of the game. They're just not coming off the field, which takes a lot of energy for wide receivers not to come off and catch a break. Ryan and Jeremy both played about they've totally turned into Batman and Robin. And I know that Jeremy's a little bit of Robin to Ryan's Batman, but Jeremy Bernard has a top 2 receiver. He's a good player. He made that great circus catch. So to me, Jeremy Bernard is just stock up, clearly a top 2 receiver at Alabama, along with Ryan, and a heck of a duo. Other stock up was Geno Vandermark, who split snaps evenly with Jaden Roberts. I didn't think Geno was spectacular during the game. And as a matter of fact, he kind of gave up a sack, but Geno has played so well in practice and in the games. He's chipping into Jaden Roberts' snaps. And this isn't necessarily an injury situation. So that'll be something to monitor. Clearly, Geno Vandermark is a stock up guy if he's cutting into Jaden Roberts' snaps. So despite the disaster in Nashville, those were my 2 stock up guys this week, Jeremy Bernard and Geno Vandermark.
Yeah, because of the loss and because of how catastrophic it was, we have, and other assorted things associated with the game, we have not discussed some of the high points. And literally a high point was Jeremy Bernard's catch, which was just glorious. I mean, it was awesome. And it was as good as a catch that Ryan Williams has had this year. It was fabulous. Now, and we also didn't talk about how magical Ryan Williams' touchdown was on his reception, because when it happened live, Jimmy, I remember thinking, oh, he's out of bounds. That's coming back. I assumed that the referee threw the black hat and that he was out of bounds.
Same here. I thought he was out of bounds. He was out of bounds. I guess they ruled that the corner forced him out.
Yeah, because what's funny is all the replays never went back far enough to show where I thought he went out of bounds.
I thought he was definitely out of bounds on his route. But again, you can come back in and field the ball like nothing happened if the referee watching the play determined that the cornerback has physically forced you outside, with his coverage. And that may have been the case because early in the route, the cornerback was running with him.
Yeah, and that could have been. But again, that's another high point. Obviously, Ryan Williams, he was our Roy Player of the Week earlier. And because I guess the other guy you could have chosen was Jeremy Bernard, but Ryan Williams had the better game. And I'm here's hoping Ryan Williams just keeps doing what he's doing.
Last year it was Burton and Bond. I mean, 2 separated from the rest, or 2 that just started getting all the targets and all the balls because they were just the better players. And to me, stock up to me was Jeremy, just in the sense that, that's happened now. It's Ryan. Our wide receiver core is Ryan and Jeremy and everyone else. It's kind of like 3 groups. Ryan and Jeremy's in the first group. The next group are the dudes that still play first team snaps. And then the third group are the guys that you really don't see much, most of whom are freshmen who will redshirt.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we will be back tomorrow with our prediction show. And then Friday, y'all come join us live, 9:00, Academy Sports. Brand new grand opening, Highway 280.
Buy Yeti.
Buy Yeti. And if you get there at 9:00, the first 150 people get access to a free mystery gift card that ranges between $20 and $500.
$500.
So we're super excited. We want to see you out there. If you want to just come there and tell us how terrible we are, we'll take that. just come and see us.
If you want to ask, hey Luke, I'm wearing this to the game. What do you think? That's cool.
Why? Why did you start this again?
Because I'm gonna ask you what I should wear, and hopefully,
All
we
I
might
said-
buy some. Academy's got Bama stuff.
First of all,
We'll rate it.
I'm impressed that so many people think that my rant on the shirt is what caused all this. It's not. Secondly, can we all admit the shirt was unattractive? That's all I said. I didn't say we lost because he wore a shirt and that t-shirt looked sloppy. I'm almost fine that he wore a t-shirt. I just want a better t-shirt. And as a friend of ours said, I didn't say this. A friend of ours said the shirt he was wearing made him look as though he got fatter as the game went on. That's a friend of ours. I didn't say it.
With the amount of beer I had to consume to get through that game, I know I did. So I'm not taking any shots at him. I know I did.
Hey, look, I got my hair cut today, and the first thing I thought of when I got my hair cut, I was like, I don't know if I got my hair cut or my chins got bigger. Like this, I think it'd be cheaper if I just started getting fatter. And
if you went to get your hair cut and walked out with a fatter chin, I'm still enough of a lawyer to know that's a malpractice suit.
That is a malpractice, downtown malpractice. All right. Hey, thank y'all for sticking with us. Thanks for loving us even when we don't deserve to be loved. And please come out and see us at Academy Sports on Friday. We would love to meet you. We'd love to shake your hand. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.